Hi friends, welcome to Gallant IAS. Today we are going to launch a series of lessons based on geography current affairs. As you all know, geography is a very important subject. It's one of the core subjects, and roughly around 11 to 15 questions are asked in your UPSC prelims from geography subject. So you need to have an understanding of the conventional topic and also current affairs related to geography, because that is how they're going to ask you the questions. Today we're going to discuss one of the current affairs topics related to geography. We're going to talk about solar eclipses. Today we're going to see what a solar eclipse is, how it is formed, and the types of solar eclipse. On 26 December 2019, the Indian subcontinent experienced a spectacular event called an annular solar eclipse. We're going to see everything about it in a while. Now, before we move on, it is very important for me to stress that current affairs questions are a favorite of UPSC, and they always ask the questions, usually ask the question based on current affairs which is relevant and usually seen in news. Take for example this question. They asked about geostationary orbit. This was asked in 2011, which was a current affairs back then. And another question which was asked in 2017. They asked about event horizon, the standard theory, singularity, which were all seen in news. Similarly, a question could be expected. There is a high probability, there is a high chance that for 2020, they're going to ask a question based on solar eclipses. So it is very important that you understand the phenomena very well. So let's get started. Eclipses are essentially celestial events which involves three players: the sun, the moon, and our own earth. The relative position of these three celestial bodies gives you different kinds of eclipses. You all know it is broadly divided into two: a lunar eclipse or a solar eclipse. For the sake of this lesson, we are focusing entirely on solar eclipses. Now, before we move on any further, you need to remember three important facts regarding this phenomenon. The first one is that the moon is an entirely reflective surface. It does not have an energy source of its own. So if you prevent the sunlight from falling on its surface, it seems to be dark. It appears to be completely dark. And the second important fact is that the moon occupies a slightly slanted orbit as compared to the orbital plane of the earth. And in this orbit, it comes in contact with the orbital plane of the earth only twice. As it is clear from the image, it crosses the orbital plane of the earth only twice in its entire journey, which takes around 29 days or roughly a month to cover to revolve around the earth. And the third important fact is that there are two kinds of shadows cast by the moon. The first one is the umbral shadow, which you can see in the center, which is a more darker shadow. And the other shadow is a penumbral shadow, which consists of the shadow beyond the umbral area, which is more diffused shadow. Now, solar eclipses occurs when the moon moves in between Earth and the sun, so that the moon covers the sun, so we cannot see the sun. Now, there are three kinds of solar eclipses: total, partial, and annular solar eclipse. In a total solar eclipse, the moon covers the entire surface of the sun, and wherever the umbral shadow, the darker shadow, falls on the earth, we have a total solar eclipse. And that region where this darker umbral shadow falls is said to have achieved totality. And all the region beyond this darker region of umbral shadow, wherever penumbral shadow falls, the lighter shadow, diffused shadow beyond the umbral area, they experience a partial solar eclipse. In this solar eclipse, the moon is in front of the sun, but it is off center slightly above or below the center of the sun. So it is not able to cover the sun entirely. And there you have a partial solar eclipse. And the last one is the annular solar eclipse, in which the moon moves in between Earth and the sun and is perfectly on center. But this seems to be a small problem. It seems to be a little smaller to cover the entire surface of the sun. So you can see in the image, what you're left with is this spectacular view where you have a ring of fire around a disk of darkness. There is a question why this happens. And the reason again for this is the elliptical orbit that the moon occupies. In this elliptical orbit, sometimes the moon is closer to the earth and sometimes it's further away. As you all might have observed, An object which is closer to the observer seems to be larger, and when the object moves away, it seems to become smaller. That is the same phenomena here. The moon moves away in its furthest extent, and it seems to become smaller to cover the entire surface of the moon, surface of the sun. That causes annular solar eclipse. Let us try to answer a question based on what we have learned. When does solar eclipse occur? When sun moves closer to earth, when moon moves in between earth and the sun, when earth moves in between sun and the moon, whenever new moon occurs. We have learned, we have seen, and the answer to this question is when the moon moves in between earth and the sun, the second option. Now there's another question, why the fourth option is wrong? If you frame it differently, why don't we have a solar eclipse every month? After all, the moon takes only 29.5 days to cover the revolution around the earth. The answer to that question is a slanted orbit of the moon. As we have seen in the beginning, moon occupies a slanted orbit as to the orbital plane of the earth. And you all know the conditions required for the phenomena of solar eclipse to occur. You need the sun, the moon and the earth to be in perfect alignment. This is quite rare because of the slanted orbit of the moon. And that is why you don't have a solar eclipse every month. Now, before we end today's session, I just want to say that we understand your pain. Life of an IAS aspirant is really, really hard. And we are working really hard ourselves to ease your burden, to make it a little easier for you. Help us help you. Subscribe to our channel for more useful content on UPSC preparation. Thanks for watching. See you soon.